Our next guest has a book that is out right now. You can get it on Amazon. He is an absolute legend, a hero, a pioneer in many respects in the world of combat sports and certainly in the world of mixed martial arts. One of the most beloved figures, as said on the top of the show, one of the most beloved figures in the history of the sport. And I understand there are some new fans who may not be as familiar as the old guard, if you will, with Burt Watson, the babysitter to the stars. He was a part of the fabric, a part of the DNA of the UFC for many, many years, and then went on to Bellator as well. He has a new book called Being Burt Watson that is out right now. And if you went to a UFC event, and certainly if you worked as a media member, you worked backstage, if you went to the weigh-ins, like he was a part of the show. And then that crossed over to the UFC. But like I said, to Bellator, like I said, you may not be familiar with him. And I understand that because it's been a few years since he was a part of the UFC, 2015. Just a quick glimpse as to what makes Burt Watson so special and why he is so iconic in this game. Take a look at this.
Excuse me, baby. Time to go to work. We rolling! Yeah! All night long, baby. Yo night, yo fight. Let's go get that right, baby. All night long, baby. Time to go to work, baby. Hey. Time to go to work. I want a good line. You know what that means? Time to go to work. We rolling! Yeah! All night long, baby. Yeah! We rolling! Yeah! Woo! All night long, baby. Yo night, yo fight. Get it right, baby.
It is a great honor to be joined by the birthday boy, the inimitable, the often imitated, never duplicated, my man, my old friend, Burt Watson. How are you, sir? And happy birthday to you.
Oh man, you know what? You never cease to amaze me, man. How the hell you know today was my birthday?
Everyone knows everything about you. You're a legend. What, 24 years young? What are we, 24, 25?
75 today, baby.
I love it.
Half of 150, and I am proud, I am honored, and I am blessed and thankful. And it's beyond words to have lived through this and to have seen people such as yourself come along that trail, along with me, along beside me, in front of me, behind me, and all those things that go with it. And you know, I get more honored and I feel more blessed, like when I just saw that clip with that young man, Jared.
Yeah.
And you know, young people have to stop using that word pressure. You know, pressure is not paying your rent. Okay? You know, pressure is somebody repossessing your car. You know, as much as life is a series of choices, it is also a recipe of opportunities. And that's how you have to look at it, as opportunities, and that there's so many of them and they come so quickly. And if you look at it as something that it's not, such as pressure or any other negative thing you may put in front of you, you're going to lose the opportunity to have those choices be significant in your life. And I can't stress that enough. I've always tried to express that with everybody. And, you know, I don't want to get on a soap opera, man.
I love it. I love it.
You know, hearing that is what motivates me and what motivated me to writing my book and putting my experiences in words, because as you said, there are guys right now that I can't touch, that don't know of what I did or how I did it. And I want to continue that some way. And the way I do it now is through this book, Being Burt Watson. You know, focusing on mindset and game plan and commitment, which are stark reality, are the same things that you use in life as you do in professional sports. And that's what I try to instill into all of the young athletes. I don't want to say old old athletes, but you know, I've been around a minute, and I've worked with quite a few, and I see the same thing. And when it comes time for the fight and for them to perform in that ring, octagon, cage, or dojo, then instantly there is a mindset. Instantly there is a game plan, and instantly there is a commitment to winning. Bring that into life, everyday life, that mindset, that game plan, and that commitment. And I can guarantee you it'll be a much easier road and you won't struggle thinking that there's a lot of pressure. I'm done.
No, well put. So could I ask you? So the book is Being Burt Watson. It's out now. You could get it on Amazon and a bunch of different
Yes.
places. What compelled you to write this? 75, like you said, you've lived an incredible life, and hopefully there are 75 more great years to come. But what compelled you to do this now?
The fact that I at this age in my life, I've learned a lesson, and I learned my lessons from everyone that's been around me in all those years. And I wanted to continue teaching that lesson. I do motivational speaking sometimes, and I had an opportunity to speak. My grandsons, who went to Yale University, to speak at his one of his football classes, and a couple of other opportunities that I had to speak. I spoke at Bergen County Community College, and I see that there are still, young people who are confused about how to navigate through the system, how to achieve success, and what direction to go into. So I felt that I needed to somehow keep that train of thought and keep that consistency going. And someone just said to me, you know what? Put it in a book so that when you go and you talk about it and you sit and you explain it, you got something to leave behind. And it was, but I've always wanted to write a book. I remember, Ariel, the first time that it came to Joe Frazier actually told me, you should write my book.
Huh.
And at the beginning, I found it a joke. But then as we went along and I got to really see Joe and to live him every day and to chase him out of my window at 2 o'clock in the morning because he wanted to get up and go someplace, I knew that I had the best connections or the best ammunition to put that on paper and to pass that on. And that's the way I feel now with everything that I put in this book and everything that I express and all the stories that I tell and all the people that I talk about and the collaboration of my experiences. The same thing you need to achieve success in sports, you need to achieve success in life and living and get to be half of 1/5, you know?
And of course the great Joe Frazier, Smoking Joe, the late great, used to manage him, very close friends with him. So
Yes.
your time in combat sports is unbelievable. In boxing, obviously in MMA, later on in life, is it a daunting task as you're beginning to write about your life, about your experiences, because you have lived? I mean, is it like 50 or so years in combat sports, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
is that?
Yes.
And I know it's not just about that. It's about life. It's about words of wisdom and whatnot. But like just to try to whittle it all down into a book initially, is that a daunting task?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Because the first thing I said was that what I don't want is that I don't want a book that thick,
Yeah.
because if you're somebody like myself who's not really a reader, you know, per se, because some people can take a book and sit down and read a book in a week, but they read 100 pages a day, and I'm not. So I said, I don't want to have a book that's that thick that someone has to put it down and go back to it and think about finishing it. I wanted something that was simple, quick, pictorial, and to the point. And then when I started trying to do that, that was the hardest thing because then I had to leave out names, then I had to skip over things, and then I had to try to decide what was the best thing for me to do, or the best way to say it without being sued. And you know what that is, because I got some things to say about some people or some things that I had to be careful about. And there's some things in the book that I kind of take credit for. Well, no, I'm not going to say I took credit for. I know things that I know I did, okay, and things that I created, that are staples now in boxing and MMA, and simple things. If I could just throw it out there, like the red and blue tape, the use of red and blue tape.
Wow, that's you.
Yes, sir.
Ah,
100.
wow.
And I don't care what anybody says or who. And very quickly it got to a point where, I would do all these fights and I would do MMA, and all of a sudden one day I'm sitting there in the back and I'm looking, and the guys in MMA were up against the screen. And that's all you saw, and there was white tape on both hands. And in my head, I'm like, I can't tell who's who until the camera pulled back. There was no way. So right away, and I ordered everything that we used, from the scale to mouthpieces, everything. So I said, you know what? If we could identify each fighter specifically. Now in Japan, some fights they used pink tape, some fights they used white tape, but there was no consistency in putting red tape on the red corner and blue tape on the blue corner. And I did it. And even Herb Dean came to me to say, for me from a peripheral point, I don't have to look anymore. Because if I see that red, I know where that guy is, or that blue, I know where that is. And, it came to fruition that right now the UFC glove, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this one.
No.
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
His hand is as big as my foot. He has about a 10.5-inch hand, and so does Shane Carwin, who are fighting. And we wrapped his hands and went to try to put UFC gloves on him with the elastic band on. And we couldn't get that damn glove on. And this was 10 minutes before he was supposed to step in that cage.
Wow.
And we couldn't get a glove on his hand. And we're pulling and we're pulling and we're pulling. And I said, you know what? We're gonna wing it. Cut that damn band and wrap the top of that glove with tape.
Wow.
When they cut the band, that glove opened up that big. They put it on. We wrapped it up with tape. The next day I held on to that, and I had Stitch Duran and Don House there. And Don House is he's a tailor. And I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but he did. So I took that glove that was open, and I said to him, fix this up because we're going to figure that out. He took that glove, he opened it up, he stitched one side on one side and Velcro and brought it back to me. UFC glove was born.
Wow. Legendary fight too.
I didn't get a dime.
UFC 116. Can I ask you mentioned? Yeah, it's crazy. You mentioned that a few minutes ago, like there might be some people now who don't know your impact, don't know who you were. I mean, I remember being back there, we rolling. I wasn't fighting, and I would get chills just listening to it and experiencing it. Does that bother you? Does it bother you that some time passes and that there are new fans who don't know about what you used to do?
It doesn't bother me, but it does when you're used to having people know what you do and what an impact you have. It was always easier to perform because people knew that what you were doing was not coming from a bad place or being disrespectful, because you got to know how to talk to fighters. You have to know how to talk to cornermen because they're already on the edge. And the minute you start going in a space of being disrespectful, you're going to get more than a fight than you need. So, but if they knew that what you were doing came from a good place, you know how they say you get more SHIT with honey than you do anything else? When they knew it came from a good place, then they gave it to you. And when guys know that that's the guy that's going to give it to me from a good place, then you know what? You get the best out of them. You get the best in their performance. the mental attitude, the mindset again, the focus, so it didn't bother me. It just, you know what, truthfully, it lets you see how time is passing by you.
Yeah.
And if you don't make them prints deep enough, somebody's going to step in them or cover them up.
I went back and looked at an interview that we did after you left the UFC, and you were a little bit vague about what happened. Are you ready to finally tell us what happened? Why did you leave the UFC? It was such a dark day. It was such a dark time. You were a part of the fabric of the organization. It was never quite the same.
I can tell it, but I'm going to give you half of it because I want you to buy that book.
Okay.
Not you specifically.
No, I am going to buy the book. It's in there.
But not you specifically. But there was a situation with Mark Munoz, and I'm mentioning names.
Yep.
And Mark had missed weight, which he didn't normally do that, but he had missed weight and he had an hour or so to make weight. So I went with him to cut that weight, to run back and forth, yada, yada, yada. So he came back finally. They gave me an extra half an hour, meaning the commission, for him to make weight. They gave me that, which they don't normally do. They gave it to me. He made weight. Now, at the time, the UFC had this young man who was a sponsorship manager from a legal standpoint when they were just starting to let guys wear patches and stuff, and now they can't because they've got a certain sponsor that everybody wears. So, and that young man was not a very nice person. Mike Mersch was not a very nice person. He was very disrespectful to some people when he spoke to them. And I knew that, so I tried to keep people away from him. So that night, after Mark made weight, I went on back to the hotel, stopped at the bar and got myself my typical shot of Grand Marnier, just to kind of ease me down a little bit. And I went up to the room, and the next thing I know, my phone rings. The phone rings, and somebody says, "Where are you at?" Or "Where are you?" in a tone that I felt was disrespectful right away. But then I kind of, I'm from Philly. I kind of let that go a little bit. I backed up a little bit. I said, "Well, I'm up in my room. Why?" He said, "Well, I need to see you." So I said, "Well, you know what? First of all, you need to take that bass out of your voice and stop talking to me, in a disrespectful manner. Right now, I'm being nice at the way I said it." And he said, "Well, if you don't get down here," and when he said that, I stopped him. I went, and I say this in the book, in one shot, he got Mad Burt, Black Burt, Hood Rat Burt, and Upset Burt all in one shot. I cursed him O-U-T. And I said to him that it got to a point where I was feeling that he and I could not function in the same space. And if he didn't like that, one of us need to go in a different direction. And he said to me that no one was going to side with me on some silly shit like that. And I went off on him. And at the end of that conversation, I said to him, "You know what? You can take this job and put it on the seat of a chair and sit on it." That was nice, what I just said.
Yeah.
The way I said it. But I said that, and somehow within the next 3 minutes or 5 minutes or so, he must have gone to Dana to explain that. But when he went to Dana with his story. Because when I came downstairs the next morning, I saw Donna Marcolini and Tony Barbosa, and we were talking. And Dana had gotten the story, and they had gotten the story that I had just quit, bad-mouthed everybody, talked about everybody, and that I had gone home. And that's the story that they got. And that was not true. I mean, yes, I did tell him to take that job and stick it up his rear, but not that I expected anybody to come to me and smooth things over, but I expected a conversation which I did not get. And I was told that, well, you know what? Let's just discuss it at another time. Just like that. So you know what I did? I went home. I called my wife. I changed my flight. I got on a plane and I went home, Eric. And I never got a phone call. I'm not saying anything with this because you need to read the book to get the rest of
Yes,
it.
sir. Yes, sir.
But I never got a phone call. I never was asked why or anything. But he questioned my integrity. He questioned my work ethics, and he did it in a way that was disrespectful, and I went to the left. Now, I had two Grand Marniers, which might have helped it a little bit, but I'm going to tell you, I cursed him out from what they say, ass to appetite. I just went on, and I expressed myself, and I told him what to do with that job. And I left. And I went home. My wife and I sat and we talked. She didn't ask me nothing. She just let it go for about 3 or 4 days, and we finally had a talk about it. But I heard nothing from anybody. Got no phone calls, no ask why or how did it happen or what happened or nothing. That was the end of it.
When the dust settled, no one reached out to say like, "Hey," that was it.
No,
There was no talks of that ever. Two
not
months
at
later,
all.
3 months, 4 months.
Not it went not at all.
Did
To
that
this
hurt you?
day,
Did that hurt you?
you know what? I was probably more struck that I hadn't because of the fact that I had spent 14 years there, 14 good years that I thought that I was not asked what happened or how it happened. So right away in my head, it said to me that they took whatever explanation he gave as me disrespecting him and me quitting on him, the company, the organization, the brand, and everything else. And that's the way I took it. And I heard nothing, absolutely nothing. And you know what? It didn't hurt because I was more surprised that I didn't. And then when I stopped to think about it, where it did hurt, it was too late because I wasn't going to call anybody, and I knew anybody by that time, and we were already into about 4 months out or 5 months out, and I had gotten nothing from anybody. So I just said, you know what? I'm moving on, and I did. And the first phone call that I got from anyone to ask me anything was you. And you know how long that was. That was the first anyone asked me to explain what, and I'm not talking about this conversation, but I'm talking about back then in 2015, the very first phone call I got from anybody to say what happened. And you also had other guys on the line. I don't know if you remember
Of
that, but
course.
there were other guys on the line who had a word for me, about me leaving and expressed how they felt. That was it. Ariel was the only one that called me and asked what had happened. And I think I was just more the fact that it was 14 years of my integrity of what I put into that I felt was not, I won't say not appreciated, because every time I see people today, and the response I've gotten from the book, and sitting here with you on your show, there must have been, I did something right. And, there must have been some kind of impact that I had more so than what was put out there as to me just walking away and saying, the hell with the UFC and my career and everything that I had put into it. So that was not it at all. And it just, gone.
Well, it was great to see you link up with Bellator later on. What was that like? We
Yeah.
we, we never spoke
Yeah.
about that experience. What was it like being with them?
Well, it was definitely awesome. And I had known Scott Coker and Carrie Anna for a while because they were with Strikeforce.
Yeah.
And when the UFC was buying everything up,
Yeah.
and bringing everybody in and buying stuff to shut stuff down or whatever, because it was Pride and it was WEC. I got to know everybody that was coming up because they brought those executives from those companies in for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they were gone. So I got to know Scott and Carrie from those days from Strikeforce. So when the situation happened with a chance phone call to Scott Coker one day, because I always reach out to people. Everybody, every now and then I'll pick up a phone and see a phone number in there that I hadn't spoken to a while, and I'll dial it.
Hmm.
And his was one of them. And I dialed it. And it was kind of surprised to him. Hey, how you doing? I'm fine, yada, yada. Where are you? They were at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? We got a fight coming up. What are you doing? I said, if you can put some gas in my car, I'll be up there. And he damn sure did. And I got in my car and I drove up to Connecticut, put my wife in the car. We drove up to Connecticut. I worked the fight.
Oh, wow.
That was the first fight that I worked with them. And it just kind of went on from there. And I ended up three years with them. And my last fight, with the one record that I do keep, and again, you better go get that book because it's in there.
Yes.
The one record that I do keep since 1985, and the Bellator is the last one. Since 1985, I've done 403 fights.
Wow.
I've walked 8,069 fighters to the ring, the cage, the octagon, and the dojo since 1985. And Bellator was a big part of that. And the end of my record was me walking Bellator. And when you get the book, you'll see who that person was. But that was my last walk to the cage.
Was there any talk of you moving on to the new Bellator?
No, nothing real heavy. But I had been speaking with quite a few people, and honestly, at this stage in my career right now, Ariel, I don't want to get on a plane no more.
Yeah,
I don't like flying anymore. You know, I just did a show at Madison Square Garden. I got one coming up at the Prudential Center. That I get in my car and I drive.
Yeah.
And I have a good time, you know, and I enjoy that. But getting on a plane and going out of the country, getting on a plane for 7 hours and sitting at an airport, I really don't want to do that anymore. I will, but I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah.
And I had a few conversations with people who were connected to PFL and Bellator of that and my feeling. And I got asked once, and I expressed that again, that, man, you know what? I don't think I want to get on a plane to go to Ireland or wherever it was.
Right.
And that was it. I haven't heard anything since. And you know what? And I'm good. I understand that. But if I can avoid getting on a plane right now, and getting in a car and driving to someplace, which I still get that fire in my gut, baby. You know, I still enjoy working with the fighters, giving them a piece of me and my energy and, you know, my experiences and sharing it with them, you know. But sitting in an airport, even if you don't sit past 5, that means first class. Okay, it's still, you know, I'm kind of wavered away from that now.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I'm good. I'm good.
What are the shows that you're doing now? Tell us about that.
Right now, I've got I'm doing, believe it or not, I'm doing sumo, and my International Sumo League, which I've done a show at Madison Square Garden with them. I did a show with them at the Prudential Center. The next show coming up is back at the Prudential Center in August, and it's amazing. They're professional athletes who are very good at what they do. There is an object to sumo wrestling that Americans or people that aren't aware of it, you know, it's a thing where the only thing that's allowed to hit the doyo is the bottom of the feet. If anything else, the hand, the hair, or anything touches, then the match is over. and it's the best 2 out of 3. So I get to still be Burt Watson. I get to coordinate and organize and put things together and work with young guys who are trying to navigate through, and achieve a certain level. And it's just, you know what? It's me still working with professional athletes in combat sports. Just doing that with this was the same thing I did with the UFC, the same thing I did with women in combat sports, with working with Layla Ali and Ronda Rousey and Kat Zingano and Shannon Knapp, who, as a promoter, that was, that was a task because it was something different and something that, and UFC was at the beginning. I forgot the senator's name, and I don't want to talk about him because he's passed on. But he said it was nothing but cockfighting. They wanted nothing to do with the UFC. But same thing now with this sumo, which I'm enjoying. I'm having a good time, and more than anything, I'm excited because I get in my car and I drive, and I enjoy doing that. I gotta figure out, some other logistics of it, but I'm having a good time, you know.
I hope we all have the kind of energy that you have at 75. And I know you had a bit of a health scare a couple of years back. Are you doing
So,
okay? Everything all right?
yeah. I did prostate cancer out of nowhere, just from a doctor's visit, and found out. And you take care of your body and your mind, and it'll take care of you. I also found that out in my 70s. I paid attention to that because if I had not taken care of my body and my mind when I got that diagnosis of prostate cancer and had to do 52 days of radiation and treatment, my body would have given out on me, but it didn't. And as you can see, I'm still rolling. And so I'm good from that. And, I'm 2.5 years cancer free. No signs of it coming back. I'm enjoying it, having a good time, and just talking. And if you don't mind me going to the left a minute, I do a show on MMA Junkie called Legends to Legend, and the last one I just did, and it's on now, and you can go and watch the past episodes. And I just did the last one with Cain Velasquez, and then I did one with Chael Sonnen. And then I did one with George St. Pierre. 3 different people, 3 different personalities that I just said to you, and I just named to you. But I learned as I went along how to navigate through those personalities and how to adjust with that. Just as this situation now with sumo and everybody else and everything else that I'm doing has to learn. And I say that, Ariel, all the time. And I try to make sure that it is a teaching point for me and a teaching point for that book I got back behind me. I know I'm
Nah, you got to sell
shamelessly
them. You
plugging
got to sell
myself,
them.
but you know what? I'm definitely having a great time and enjoying it. And I appreciate everything that I get, in terms of helping me, because I'm still navigating. I'm still navigating my way through this. I'm still, the only way somebody opens the door is if you knock on it. If you just stand there, ain't nobody gonna open that door, baby. They got to know you on the other side of it. You got to knock on it. And I'm still knocking on that door, you know? But hey, that's the lesson that I try to give, and I keep giving to young fighters, young professional athletes, my kids, my grandkids, and anybody that I get around or I get a minute to run my mouth. That's what I'm going to do, baby, all night long.
I love it. So great to talk to you again, Bert. Happy birthday once
Always.
again. Thank you for spending some of your birthday with us. I know 2 great men born on this day. My father 77 today as well. So I love the fact.
No way.
Yeah, how about that? July 17th.
Wow.
So
Wow.
enjoy the rest of your
Wow.
day. Congratulations on the book. Can't wait to read it. I urge everyone to check it out. I don't say this lightly. You were a part of the fabric and the DNA of that organization, and the events weren't the same without you. And I remember there were some times where you were in like 8 weeks, 10 events. You were sometimes doing them back to, it was absurd what you would do
Yes,
and
sir.
the energy that you would bring. You know how much the fighters loved you and how much you meant to them. And that will never change. And as long as people like me are doing shows like this, that will never be forgotten. So, it's an honor to have you on. Much love to
Appreciate it.
you, and congrats and good luck with the book, and keep in touch, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. You've always been an inspiration, even though you're not as old as I am, but because you keep rolling, baby. And I see you, and I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, man.
All the
It's been a
best.
blessing.
Happy birthday, Bert.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Peace. Thank you.
There's the man, Burt Watson. Go check out the book. Go get it right now. Do yourself a favor. Get a birthday present for Burt. How about that? Over on Amazon, Being Burt Watson. He would come out before the weigh-ins. There it is. Look at that. He would come out before the weigh-ins. Joe Rogan would call him the babysitter to the stars. Just an absolute legend, really, an absolute legend. And what an infectious personality. What a charismatic guy, and what stories dating back to the great Joe Frazier back in the day, who he managed. He managed Joe Frazier, Smoking Joe.